In this video we are going to completely remake this Blackwater Riparian. So it's been approximately 6 months since we set up this Blackwater system, and here is a picture of how it looked like when it was just set up. So as you can see, it has now completely overgrown with all sorts of riparian plants. Usually this is how I like my ripariums, wild and lush with lots of plants kind of overtaking the entire setup. But there are a couple of problems with this particular setup. First of all, some of these plants are growing much faster than the others, so they're overshadowing plants in lower part of this setup. For example, in here I've got a sword fern which is completely overshadowed by monstera and peace lily. Over there I have another fern which is also completely overshadowed. The other thing that I need to change is lighting. This lighting setup with about 4 different lamps, LED lamps, it worked fine as long as these plants were young and they were small, but now as you can see these plants have outgrown this lighting, so I need to replace this lighting with something more powerful and something more efficient so that all of them actually get lighting not from the sides as it is now, but from the top. I will also need to make some changes to the population of this tank, because I have here a school of corridors which I never see because they always hide in the leaf litter. And the problem with having corridors in the tanks with leaf litter and botanicals is that they will shift that leaf litter around the tank, and this is what they do normally. They move all the leaves to the front of the tank, so it doesn't look very natural and harmonious. So I want to remove these corridors from here, but obviously to remove the corridors, to catch them, I need to remove everything, because otherwise I will never catch them. So I will also make some changes to filtration. For example, I have a canister filter in here, and basically it just collects all the decayed leaf litter, which is probably not what I want. So I would like to actually remove all filtration from this tank. I will have one pump which will pour the water on top of some of the plants, but I don't really need any filtration in here, because this is a Blackwater tank, so it's soft water and it's acidic, and there's no purpose in doing any biological filtration, and there's not much purpose in mechanical filtration either, because it only has all sorts of small fish, and they don't produce too much waste, so there's no need to remove the waste mechanically, and I can just do water changes occasionally to add some fresh water. Basically this is what we're going to do right now, and you can see how I will set up this tank, how I will change the hardscape, how I will rearrange the plants. So let's get going. So much of the hardscape is in place, so we're going to use different types of driftwood, and this is a piece of driftwood with a sword fern which we used to have before in in this tank, and it didn't get any light, so I'm trying to put it in a place where it would get more light. And yeah, this is a driftwood we have collected recently in the forest, so it's an oak driftwood, and the other pieces of driftwood we've already had in here. So the next step will be to add riparian plants actually to this hardscape. So this is the final product. It has taken us about 5 hours to finish scaping it, because there are so many details and there's so much contextualization that needed to be done, particularly in that area where we've created this sort of an island with a fern and with a sphagnum moss growing on top of driftwood. So it has taken us forever, and I think I've only finished at about 1 a.m. at night, so I just had to put the fish back as soon as possible, because they've spent a lot of time in their plastic container, and I just didn't have time to film all of this because I wanted to get it finished as soon as possible. And yeah, basically this is what it is now. I had to remove some of the plants, some of the pothos had to be trimmed, and one of the ferns had to be removed because there was no space for it. And basically in terms of the plants, same flora, I would say. And in terms of the fish, I have removed all of the corridors. I had a pair of apistos in there, Apistogramma agassizi. I've also removed them. And yeah, so currently we have here a school of cardinal tetras and a school of dwarf pencilfish, Nanostomus marginatus, and 3 marbled hatchetfish, Carnegiella strigata. And this is it in terms of population. I've added lots of botanicals in here, so there are 3 types of leaves in here. There are catappa leaves, oak leaves, magnolia leaves, different pieces of driftwood, some of them collected by ourselves, other pieces are from this tank, which have been in this tank for quite a while. I didn't really add any extra tannins to the water, because the amount of tannins released by all the botanicals is sufficient for now, but I'm planning to be adding some rooibos tea later on, once the botanicals will release all the tannins, and clearly after I change water later on I will have to keep the tannins at the same level, so I will be adding some rooibos tea. The other important change to this setup is that there's almost no flow. Previously I used to have a canister here which wasn't doing much in terms of flow, but still there was some current, and there was also a small Eheim pump in the back which was creating current, because corridors, they generally enjoy current. But now I have here one small pump, API pump, that pushes water through the sphagnum moss and creates this a bit of a kind of a tiny waterfall effect, something like that. And because it creates some ripples on the surface, it provides oxygen to the fish. There is sufficient surface agitation, but there is no flow at all. So the reason being is that before, when I had flow, all of these leaves, all of this leaf litter, all of these botanicals, they would be blown to the one side of the tank, and the other side of the tank will be just bare bottom, a bare sand basically, and it didn't look very natural, it didn't look very aesthetic. And if you watch videos of cardinal tetras on other small carotines in the wild, you will see that they live in areas where there's almost no flow, where there's almost no current. They live in this shallow creeks with lots of leaf litter, lots of botanicals, and almost no flow. So apparently this is something that they might enjoy. After I've added them to this setup, they actually started behaving completely different from when they used to live with a bit of current, a bit of flow, because previously they always kind of had to struggle with this flow, and they were kind of standing in the one side of the tank, but now they spread all over the tank, and they're kind of more relaxed, and possibly they're happy without flow, but we'll see. Certainly there will be some dead areas, dead zones in different parts of the tank, because the water is not circulating, the water is not moving. But I'll probably have to do more water changes. Previously I've done just one water change per month, just about 20%. Now I'll probably have to change water also 20% every week, just to make sure that the water is moving through, and that there are no completely dead areas. So that's probably the only inconvenience. Other than that, this is still a low maintenance system. It has one flow pump, no filtration as such, and one heater. to keep the temperature at 25 degrees Celsius. I know that some of you might be uncomfortable with the thought that there's no filtration in this tank, but from biological sort of things, there's no point of having biological filtration in here, because the water is soft and acidic, so biological filtration is not going to do much. In terms of mechanical filtration, these fish are tiny, they hardly produce any waste, and actually at the moment nitrates are at 0, and there are lots of riparian plants which will basically consume all the nutrients, all the ammonium produced by the fish, so I don't really think that there is a need in mechanical filtration. I certainly want to keep all this layer of leaf litter on the bottom. I don't want any sort of mechanical filtration to actually remove all this leaf litter. So the goal is to keep this tank as natural as possible. Alright, so I hope you liked this video. Leave your comments in the comment section, and if you have any questions, please leave them as well, and I'll see you soon.